Hey guys, Jake here from Mogul Productions. Excited to host a quick round of questions here for a couple of our friends. We've got Fangs and tldr.earth, who are both exciting projects working in the world of conservation and crypto. So just to kick things off, we'd love to get a quick round of intros. Firstly, ladies from the Fangs, if you give a quick intro to the listeners in terms of what your project's about and what you're kind of aiming to achieve.
Hi there. Thanks, Jake. Tiffany Acosta here from Blockchain Fangs. We call ourselves the Fangs. We are a conservation effort here in Los Angeles. Our first mission is to save land and species here in the Hollywood Hills. Believe it or not, Los Angeles has one of the most diverse landscapes in the world. And we have a variety of different animals and plants here, and so we're looking at stopping development and really focusing on that habitat.
Fantastic. No, that's I appreciate the context there. And also I've got Adrian here from tldr.earth. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining, and yeah, I'd love to hear a bit about your project.
Hi Jake, hi everybody. My name is Adrian Dellecker. I founded tldr.earth in the spring of this year. I'm a political scientist by training, but I entered the conservation sector about 30 years ago. I joined WWF and I was head of policy and advocacy, dealt a lot with negotiations, sustainable development goals, UN conventions, biological diversity, climate change, things like that. And after supporting a lot of startup projects within WWF and partnered with WWF, I decided to launch my own outfit. I'm focused on the intersection between crypto and conservation. So we're content creators. We facilitate the onboarding of conservation actors in the Web3 space. And we're sort of also act as a liaison between people active in Web3 with an interest in conservation and impact to conservation organizations. And we hope to, in the longer term, have products that help facilitate the transaction between people and conservation projects on the ground via crypto.
Incredible. That sounds super intriguing. Yeah, I'd love to learn more about that as well. And I guess just as a bit of a segue to the intros there, like what would you guys say is like, I guess, what level of importance would you kind of place on conservation with the environment around community efforts? Obviously, it's a huge problem to tackle on a global scale, and that involves a number of people from different levels. Like, what's kind of been both your experiences with in terms of like getting a ground level community to help drive your mission and awareness around what you're doing? I guess we'd start with you, Tiffany.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, conservation efforts have been localized, and to bring awareness to a specific area or cause, you've had to really get the community around that cause within the area that people have actually witnessed or can understand what's going on. But with technology and the growth of Web3 or the internet, communities have become much more boisterous, and the ability to get information out and a cause out has become much more global. And with all of that, you know, it's just about then getting outreach in more on a global scale and getting your mission out. And those people who do really want to have passion with it, they could be on the other side of the world. You're able to contact them and communicate with them.
Absolutely. No, well said. I appreciate that. And what about you, Adrian? Like, what would you say has been your kind of thoughts around the whole, I guess, community component of what you're doing with driving conservancy efforts?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I'd say I'd agree very much with that sort of globalization, and conservation is very often a local affair, and about linking those different parts. I mean, over half the population lives in urban areas now, and by our very nature, we're actually quite far away from wildlife, most of us. And the reality is that many of us who care about wildlife won't have the luxury of being near it anytime in their lifetime, actually. So there's a component which is about linking people together, linking projects together, making that more fluid, more impactful, more in terms of magnitude as well. But also in terms of community, there's this element of disempowerment. The problems that we face from the climate sector, from the environment sector, wildlife sector seem sometimes to be so intractable, so big, so beyond what we can do individually that it really will take a community. And I think that there's a real need to have a community that's empowered, that has a feeling that they can act and be a force for good in this debate, because the alternative is quite dark.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what would you say, Adrian, would be like, I guess obviously you as you said, you've been involved in this industry for what 30 years, I think you mentioned, which is obviously
13, 1-3.
So 13, I was like, wow,
1-30.
You haven't aged
I
very
joined
much.
when I was 12.
Years. Yeah, anyway, with that being said, over the time of your involvement, like how have you kind of seen the conservation industry change or evolve over the time since you've been involved? And then I guess as a follow-up to that, like especially since more recently getting involved in the kind of crypto space, how would you say that is as helping drive your efforts to kind of help scale what your mission is?
I mean, if you look at it from the inside, you have a feeling it's not changing. It's not changed in decades. It's quite stale. It's still very much the same models. Both the actual conservation and the fundraising and the community engagement hasn't changed very, very much. When you look at it in greater detail, there's two things that stick out. One is that it is evolving, albeit slowly, but it is evolving. The conservation organization I was a part of hired a lot of lawyers, economists, et cetera, people who were not purely environmentalists. And that was, I think that's a trend in the sector, generally speaking. So there are things that are changing. Another thing is that there's a really strong resistance to risk in this sector. It might not be the only sector, but I can speak from experience that risk-taking is not very high on the list. So we're a very sort of conservative sector, and that I think is very detrimental to the mission. Obviously, taking too many risks or undue risks obviously is dangerous, but there's really a need to go beyond what is usually done. So even sort of hiring economists, lawyers, et cetera, that's already kind of risky, but we need to really up the risk quite significantly if we're going to change the trajectory of things.
Got it. No, well said. How about you, Shane? Fangs, what would you say has been kind of your I guess experience watching the conservancy efforts grow, at least in the LA region, over the time you've been there, and how you kind of helped, I guess, over the last few years, how has the increase in kind of awareness been for you guys locally?
Locally, it's been great. We have partnered with several other local conservation groups. We were so excited and very keen on announcing our first NFT drop, which is in partnership with CLAW, which is Citizens for Los Angeles Wildlife. And they have generously donated their trail cam photos, there's a trail cam up in the Hollywood Hills that actually, the backdrop is the Hollywood sign. And we've captured, CLAW has captured a lot of traffic up there. I'm not gonna say too much because I want everybody to see our collection. So CLAW has been really generous with us. We've also partnered with the Santa Monica Conservancy, and we have made a deal with them that the land that we've identified in our first drop will abut against their property. So we'll be able to merge the properties to complete the corridor, one of their corridors that they have, and grant the lien to Santa Monica Conservancy. So no matter what happens to that land, even after we purchase it, if something were to fall with the land, it would not matter because the lien will run with the land in perpetuity. And so we are really excited to partner with them and their protections that they offer with their program. And we've also, of course, involved with the local community and neighborhood councils, and they are all very passionate about the project, which is great. But we look at people like you who are watching these videos to really be able to get involved and know that, like, hey, I could buy a piece of Hollywood. I could buy a piece of this mission, and every little thing does make a difference. Instead of it being localized, now we're going to make it globalized. So.
No, that's awesome. I love that. And I guess just to wrap things up here with both you guys, what would you say would be, you know, what do you personally have as a viewpoint as like the future of new technologies like crypto being implemented to drive conservancy efforts for these type of causes? Like obviously there's a bunch of new technology out, and obviously, you know, NFTs is one piece of that which you guys are leveraging to help make some positive impacts in the world. What would you say are you most excited about with the I guess the adoption of these new technologies to drive change? I guess we'll start with you, Adrian.
Sure. I mean, the challenge and opportunity is ubiquity. I mean, there's still some hurdles, user experience, user interface. But I believe that we're kind of in the early stages of the internet, where just by creating more and more content, there'll be more and more people, and the more seamless it'll become. I mean, think of like the dial-up browsers versus the iPhone in your hand. I mean, that's really the difference that I expect in the next few years in the crypto space. So ubiquity. And as far as conservation is concerned, then real practical demonstrable flows of funding, and not just direct funding between donors and conservation outfits, but really an actual asset. A conservation is seen as an asset that people will pay for. So when you think of, like, for example, the gaming industry being 180 billion industry, maybe people will want to actually have some of the animals that they've adopted, or some of the lands that they've adopted, to be with them in those worlds. So we also talk about, you know, metaverses, et cetera. But the reality is that people spend already almost a majority of their time, of their waking life, online. And so will we be bringing nature in there? And I really think that Web3 is a great way to make that happen.
No, amazing. I love that answer. And what about you, Chain Fangs? What would you say would be, what are you most excited about with seeing the kind of implementation of new technologies to drive conservation efforts?
I think just community, you know, with different, like merging our efforts here and getting the word out. There's more awareness about both of our programs, and the community that we have across the world just becomes bigger, and the ability to correspond with everybody in real time, and in real getting program in real time. It just changed. It's game changing for these kinds of missions, and you know, we are able to grow our community and have the community kind of also have a say and a word in what we're doing and what we could potentially do in the future.
Amazing. Yeah, it's definitely cool to see people can have more of a voice in terms of how they want to see things taking place. That's for sure. Yeah, well, thanks guys for joining. I really appreciate your time. And just to kind of close things off, if you could just let the listeners know where they can find out more about what you guys are doing and all the amazing work. I guess, Adrian, where can people kind of learn more about what you guys are working on?
So I've got a website, tldr.earth, or else I'm most active on LinkedIn, because we're content creators and we're very active there. We also use Twitter as well, but LinkedIn and the website is the place.
Fantastic. No, thank you. And Tiffany?
Yeah, everyone, we're at chainfangs.io, or all of our socials are at chain_fangs. And of course, it's through Mogul, and with you, Jake. Again, thank you for supporting us and hosting this. It was really great.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks guys. And yeah, thanks everyone that's tuning in. And if you have any questions, yeah, feel free to reach out to the lovely people here. And yeah, have a great day. Cheers.
Thank you.
Yo, this a little bit different.